My name is Ava Bennett. I'm 26 years old. The first crack in my relationship did not arrive with lipstick on a collar, a late-night confession, or some dramatic scene in the rain. It arrived because my boyfriend kept liking his ex-girlfriend's photos like he was trying to remind her he still existed. At first, I told myself I was being ridiculous. People scroll, people tap. People drift back into old social media habits without meaning anything by it. That was the story I offered myself because it was easier than asking the uglier question. Why her? Nathan and I had been together a year and a half. We'd been living together for 6 months, long enough for our toothbrushes to lean against each other in the same cup, long enough for his hoodie to become mine and my groceries to become ours, long enough that I had stopped thinking of us as temporary. So when I noticed that Claire Donovan kept appearing in my feed because Nathan had liked another one of her posts, I tried not to make it into something bigger than it was. The first few times, I ignored it. Then I started noticing the pattern. A beach photo, he liked it. A gym mirror selfie, he liked that too. A blurry, moody midnight post with some caption about healing and growth and protecting your peace. He liked that one especially fast. Claire wasn't just some random ex from another lifetime. She was the ex. The one he once described as exhausting, dramatic, impossible to go back to. The one he had rolled his eyes about when we first started dating. The one he had promised was ancient history. Apparently, ancient history had very good lighting. I mentioned it one evening while he sat on the couch half watching a basketball game, thumb moving lazily over his phone. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "You've been interacting with Claire's posts a lot lately." He didn't look up. "Okay?" I stared at him. "That's it?" Now he glanced over, expression blank with mild annoyance, like I was interrupting him to report that it might rain tomorrow. "What exactly are you asking me, Ava?" "I'm not asking anything. I'm saying it's weird." He let out a soft laugh through his nose. "It's Instagram. She's your ex. And you've liked basically everything she's posted for the last month." That made him sit up a little, just enough for his voice to sharpen. "Are you tracking my activity?" The way he said it made me feel dirty for even bringing it up. "I follow her too," I said. "It shows up." He shrugged. "So what? I like a lot of people's stuff." "Not like this." Nathan locked his phone and set it face down on the coffee table with a kind of deliberate calm that always made me feel like I was about to lose an argument I hadn't prepared for. "You know what this sounds like?" he asked. I already knew I wouldn't like the answer. "It sounds controlling." The word hung in the room between us. I crossed my arms, more to hold myself together than because I was angry. "I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you it makes me uncomfortable." "Why?" "Because she's your ex." "Oh my God." He leaned back again and rubbed a hand over his jaw. "Ava, mature adults can be friendly with exes. Not everything has to be toxic." "Friendly is one thing. This feels like something else. Because you're choosing to make it something else." That was Nathan's gift. He could take the unease he created and hand it back to me dressed as insecurity. I looked at him, really looked at him, and something in my chest shifted half an inch. Not enough to break, just enough to feel unstable. "She was a mistake," I said quietly. "That's what you called her." He rolled his eyes. "People say things after breakups. So now she's what, a friend?" He gave me a tight smile. "Yeah, a friend. You should try not turning everything into a threat." I let the conversation die there because I could already feel the walls closing. He had moved us into that familiar territory where I was no longer the person asking a reasonable question. I was now the suspicious girlfriend, the insecure one, the one with issues. But after he went to shower, I sat alone with my phone and checked. I wish I could say I was above that. I wasn't. And maybe that's when the real damage started, not with what I found, but with the fact that I felt compelled to look. He had followed Claire again 2 months earlier. Since then, he had liked dozens of her posts. Not casually, consistently. He'd commented too. Little things that could all be explained away on their own. "Looking good. That place is still on your list?" Fire emoji. And then there were the stories. 3 songs over the last couple of weeks that he had once told me were their songs. Back when we first got together, he'd laughed about how embarrassing his old relationship had been. How every song, every restaurant, every vacation spot had some loaded memory attached to it. Now those same songs were showing up again, and Claire was viewing his stories within minutes. That night, I brought up the music. He was brushing his teeth when I stood in the bathroom doorway and said, "Those songs you posted, weren't those songs connected to Claire?" He spat toothpaste into the sink and stared at me through the mirror. "You're monitoring my music now?" "I'm not monitoring anything. I remember what you told me." "No, what you're doing," he said, turning around, "is building a case like I'm on trial." Because it doesn't feel innocent. He laughed again, sharper this time. You don't get to control who I follow, what I like, or what I post. I felt my face go hot. I never said I did. Good. Then stop acting like it. I should have walked away then. I should have gone silent and started planning my exit right there. Instead, I said, and I guess I don't get to control who you love either. He froze, just for a second. Then his expression changed. What's that supposed to mean? I held his gaze. Nothing. Just repeating the logic. He looked at me like he wanted to argue, then dismissed me with a scoff and turned back to the sink. That was the moment something in me cooled. Not ended, not yet, but cooled. Because I realized Nathan didn't want trust. He wanted freedom without scrutiny. He wanted the right to make me uncomfortable and the power to shame me for noticing. So I stopped asking. A week later, I liked a post from Ethan Parker. Ethan was my ex from college, not the messy kind, not the one that leaves claw marks on your future. We had ended because life split in different directions, and distance did what betrayal never had. Every once in a while, we exchanged polite birthday messages, the occasional congratulations when one of us hit some milestone. That was all. Until now. He had posted about a promotion, a photo in a navy suit, smiling in front of some office building with that same crooked grin that used to disarm me when I was 20. I tapped like. Then, after staring at the screen for a few seconds, I commented, proud of you. Knew you'd do big things. It was simple, warm, plausibly innocent. Nathan noticed within the hour. We were in the kitchen. I was cutting strawberries. He came in holding his phone, expression too casual to be genuine. Who's Ethan? I kept a friend from college. He waited. Then, a male friend from college? I almost smiled. Yes. His jaw shifted. He commented back. I rinsed the knife under the faucet. That tends to happen on social media. Ava. I turned and looked at him with the same calm he had used on me, the same maddening composure that made everything feel slippery. Oh, I said softly, are we not being mature and friendly with exes anymore? For the first time in days, Nathan had no immediate answer. And that silence? That was the first thing that felt honest in our apartment all month. If there's one thing I've learned about people, it's this. They don't mind unfairness, as long as it benefits them. But the moment you mirror it back, that's when the rules suddenly matter. Nathan didn't bring up Ethan again that night, but I could feel it. The way he moved around me, the way his eyes lingered just a second too long when my phone lit up, the way silence stretched between us, not empty, but loaded, watching, calculating. So I kept going. Not recklessly, not dramatically. Precisely. Ethan posted again the next day. Some throwback photo, college party, dim lighting, red cups, the kind of picture that looked like a memory even before it became one. I was in it, his arms slung loosely around my shoulders, both of us laughing at something outside the frame. I stared at it for a long time. Then I commented, wow, the infamous purple party. Can't believe we survived that night. It was the kind of comment that sounded harmless to anyone else. But to someone who knew, it was a thread being pulled, Ethan replied within minutes. The best chaos. We should do a reunion sometime. I felt something twist in my chest. Not longing, not exactly. More like recognition. A reminder of a version of myself that didn't feel like she had to defend every emotion she had. I typed, maybe we should, I'll text you, and hit send. Nathan saw that one too. This time he didn't pretend it didn't matter. He walked into the bedroom where I was sitting, phone still in my hand, and leaned against the doorframe. You're texting him now? I looked up at him, calm. We're catching up. That's not the same thing? I tilted my head slightly. How is it different? He pushed off the frame and stepped closer. Because you're doing this to get a reaction out of me. I almost laughed. Is that what you think you've been doing with Claire? His expression hardened. I'm not flirting with her. I met his gaze. Fire emojis under bikini photos don't count? That's different. There it was again. That word. Different. Everything he did lived in that category. Harmless, mature, innocent. Everything I did? Strategic, manipulative, wrong. How? I asked quietly. He opened his mouth, closed it, then ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. You're twisting things. No, I said, I'm matching them. That landed. You could see it in the way his shoulders stiffened, in the way his eyes flicked to my phone again, like it had suddenly become a threat instead of just an object. But here's the thing. He didn't stop. If anything, he doubled down. That was the part that surprised me. I thought maybe, just maybe, seeing himself reflected back at him would force some kind of awareness. It didn't. It escalated. Over the next few days, Nathan's interactions with Claire became louder, more obvious. Comments turned into inside jokes. Inside jokes turned into references I knew nothing about. Things like, still can't believe you remember that place. Some things never change. Miss those days sometimes. Miss, not missed. Present tense. Deliberate. And every time I saw it, I felt that same small shift inside my chest. Not breaking. Not yet. Just loosening. Detaching. So I escalated too. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. I met Ethan for coffee. It wasn't even a lie. He was in town for work, just for a couple of days. When I messaged him, it turned out our timing overlapped perfectly. We met at a small cafe downtown. Neutral territory. Daylight. No shadows to hide in. And the strangest thing, it was easy. No tension. No weird undercurrent. No emotional landmines waiting to explode. We talked about work, life, the years in between. He told me about the city he'd moved to, the girlfriend he'd been with for almost a year. Serious, stable, happy. I told him about Nathan, or at least the version of that story that didn't sound like I was already halfway out the door. At one point, Ethan leaned back in his chair and studied me. "You don't seem happy," he said gently. I smiled, the kind that doesn't quite reach your eyes. "I'm fine." He didn't push. That was always his way. No pressure, no need to win, just presence. We laughed before we left, hugged like people who shared a past but didn't need to rewrite it. It was clean, simple, and somehow that made everything at home feel heavier. I posted a story later that evening. Coffee tastes better with good company. Tagged Ethan. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before hitting share. Then I put my phone down and waited. The reaction was almost immediate. Nathan didn't text. He called. Once, twice, 3 times. By the 4th, I answered. "What?" I said, keeping my voice level. "You're with him?" His tone wasn't calm anymore. It was sharp, tight. I had coffee with a friend. "He's not your friend. He's your ex." I leaned back against the couch. "So is Claire." Silence. "Then, that's not the same and you know it." I closed my eyes for a second. "Explain it to me," I said. He didn't. Because he couldn't. Because the truth, the real truth, was that it wasn't different. It just felt different to him. Because this time, he wasn't the one in control. "You're doing this to hurt me," he said finally. I let out a soft breath. "No, Nathan. I'm doing exactly what you told me was normal." "That's bullshit." "Is it?" Another silence. Longer this time. He exhaled sharply. "This is getting out of hand." I almost said, "It already was." Instead, I said nothing. Because there was something else I was starting to understand. Nathan didn't actually want fairness. He wanted reaction. He wanted me upset, jealous, emotional, chasing. He wanted proof that I cared enough to fight for him, even if that fight was over something he created. And when I didn't give him that, he unraveled. That night, he changed his profile picture. A photo from last summer. One I remembered taking. Golden hour. Perfect lighting. He looked good, confident, untouchable. Then came the posts. 3 in a row. Not subtle, not casual. The kind of photos that were designed to be seen. Watched. Reacted to. And Claire reacted. Of course she did. Fire emojis. Heart eyes. A comment that read, "Someone's been busy." I watched it happen in real time. And for the first time since this started, I didn't feel jealous. I felt tired. Because it finally clicked. This wasn't about her. Or Ethan. Or even social media. It was about control. And Nathan was losing it. 3 days later, things stopped being subtle. That's when the spiral really began. By Friday, the tension in our apartment had a pulse. You could feel it in the air. Thick. Charged. Like something was about to break. But neither of us wanted to be the one who made the first move. Nathan had stopped pretending this was casual. Everything he did now had intention behind it. Everything I did, he watched. Closely. Too closely. That morning, I woke up to the sound of his phone buzzing on the nightstand. He reached for it immediately, turning slightly away from me, like the movement itself was instinct. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. A few minutes later, he got up and headed to the bathroom, phone still in his hand. The door didn't fully close. Through the narrow gap, I caught a glimpse of the screen reflected in the mirror. Claire's name. A message preview. "Tonight's going to be fun. You better show up." I lay there staring at the ceiling long after the shower started running. Something inside me didn't twist this time. It didn't spike into anxiety or anger. It just settled, like the final piece of a puzzle sliding into place. When he came out, towel slung low on his hips, he looked at me like he was waiting. Waiting for the question. Waiting for the reaction. Waiting for me to prove something. I sat up slowly and stretched. "You're up early." His eyes narrowed just slightly. "Yeah, busy day." I nodded. "Same." And that was it. That was all he got. The disappointment in his expression was almost subtle enough to miss. Almost. The rest of the day passed in that strange, quiet standoff. No arguments. No accusations. Just observation. By evening, the performance began. Nathan stood in front of the mirror longer than usual, adjusting his shirt, checking his reflection from different angles. He changed outfits twice, sprayed cologne like he was going somewhere that required an impression. I leaned against the bedroom doorframe, arms loosely crossed. "Big plans?" I asked. He didn't look at me right away. "Claire's having people over." There it was, placed carefully between us like a matchstick. I nodded. "Sounds fun." That wasn't the answer he wanted. I could tell. He turned then, studying my face, searching for something, anything, to push against. "You don't care?" he asked. I shrugged lightly. Why would I? "She's my ex." I held his gaze. "And your friend. You've made that very clear." His jaw tightened. For a second, I thought he might drop it. He didn't. "I might stay late," he added, tone casual but eyes sharp. "Really late." I pushed off the door frame. "Thanks for the heads up." That was the moment something cracked. Not in me. In him. Because he wasn't getting what he wanted. No jealousy. No confrontation. No emotional explosion he could point to and say, "See, this is why I need freedom." Instead, I gave him nothing. And nothing is the most frustrating thing you can give someone who's trying to provoke you. He let out a short, humorless laugh. "That's it? That's all you're going to say?" I tilted my head. "What else do you want me to say, Nathan?" His voice rose slightly. "I'm going to my ex's place looking like this." He gestured to himself, perfectly put together. "And you just say have fun?" I looked at him for a long moment. Then, very calmly, "I trust you." The words landed heavier than anything else I could have said, because they exposed the truth neither of us had been saying out loud. Trust doesn't need performance. Trust doesn't need games. Trust doesn't need to be tested. But what he wanted was the opposite of trust. He wanted proof of ownership, proof of importance, proof that I would fight for him even when he was the one creating the situation. And I wasn't playing anymore. He grabbed his keys a little harder than necessary. "Whatever," he muttered, brushing past me. The door closed behind him with more force than needed. I stood there for a few seconds in the quiet. Then I exhaled, slow, steady, and reached for my phone. At 7:12 p.m., Nathan posted his first story. A group shot, dim lighting, music in the background. Claire visible just over his shoulder, leaning in a little too close, smiling like she knew exactly what she was doing. At 7:26, another one. Closer now. The two of them laughing, drinks in hand. At 7:41, a video. Her hand on his arm. Just for a second. Just long enough. I watched all of it, without reacting, without responding, without feeding the narrative he was trying to build. Then, at 9 p.m., I posted mine. A photo of a closed door. Simple, minimal. Caption, "When one door closes." No context. No explanation. Just enough to make people wonder. At 10:03, another story. Glasses clinking. Soft lighting. A restaurant setting. Multiple hands in frame, but no faces. Location tag, downtown. Ambiguous. Intentional. At 10:47, my phone lit up. Nathan. Calling. Again. And again. And again. I let it ring. 13 missed calls. Then the messages. "Who are you with?" "Ava, answer me." "This isn't funny." "You better not be on a date." I stared at the screen for a moment. Then typed, "Dinner with friends, everything okay?" The typing bubble appeared immediately. Whose hands were those? "Where are you?" "Answer me." I set my phone down without replying, because for the first time since this started, he was the one chasing clarity. He was the one sitting in discomfort. He was the one trying to piece together a story from fragments. And I realized something as I sat there, calm, untouched by the chaos on the other end of the line. This was never about making him jealous. It was about letting him feel exactly what he had been so comfortable making me feel. Uncertain, replaceable, outside. And the more he spiraled, the clearer everything became. By the time I picked up my phone again, I already knew how this was going to end. By the time I posted the final photos, I wasn't angry anymore. That part had burned out days ago. What was left was something quieter, clearer, final. The post went up at 11:02 p.m. A carousel. 5 photos. The first, an elegant restaurant menu, soft lighting, just enough detail to suggest something intentional. The second, our table, 4 place settings, wine glasses half full, a scene that didn't look accidental. The third, Ethan, smiling, mid-laugh, and next to him, his girlfriend Lily, leaning into him like she belonged there. The fourth, a group selfie, me, Ethan, Lily, and Daniel, Ethan's friend. The fifth, Daniel and me, clinking glasses. Caption, "New beginnings." The comments came fast. Ethan, "Best double date in years." Lily, "Finally met the legend." Daniel, "Already planning round 2. It looked exactly like what it was meant to look like. A setup, a beginning, a shift. And somewhere across the city, I knew Nathan was watching it unfold in real time. Because my phone exploded. Calls, messages, back to back. Ava, what is this? Who is that guy? You're on a date? Answer me right now. Then a message from an unknown number. I opened it. Hey, this is Claire. Nathan's kind of losing it. He's here and honestly, it's messy. You might want to come get him. I stared at the screen for a second, then typed back. He's your friend. I am sure you'll take care of him. I blocked the number and put my phone face down. Sunday morning, I woke up before him. Or rather, before he came home. 6:07 a.m. The front door opened slowly, like even the sound of it might trigger something. I was already in the kitchen, coffee brewing, pan heating, the quiet rhythm of someone who had already made their decision. Nathan walked in looking like the night had wrung him out. Shirt wrinkled, eyes red, the faint smell of alcohol and something heavier, regret, maybe. He stopped when he saw me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then, we need to talk. I flipped a pancake. About what? His jaw tightened. You know what? I turned off the stove and faced him fully. Say it. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once like he was trying to gather something that wouldn't come together cleanly. You went on a date, he said finally. I held his gaze. And? His expression cracked. Ava, we're together. The words hung there, fragile, outdated. I tilted my head slightly. Are we? That hit harder than anything else I could have said. He blinked. What? I leaned back against the counter, arms crossing loosely. You've been investing in Claire for months. Flirting, rebuilding something, testing boundaries. And every time I said something, you told me I was controlling. That's not... So I stopped, I continued calmly. I stopped asking, stopped reacting, stopped trying to fix something you clearly didn't think was broken. His breathing got heavier. I didn't cheat on you. I didn't say you did. Then why are you acting like, Because respect isn't just about cheating, Nathan. Silence. Sharp. Unavoidable. You broke something long before last night, I said softly. You just didn't notice when it happened. He stared at me like he was trying to rewind time in his head, trying to find the exact moment, trying to fix it retroactively. You're overreacting, he said, but there was no conviction behind it now. I shook my head slowly. No, I'm just done. That word landed. Done. Not angry. Not dramatic. Done. He stepped closer, desperation starting to bleed through the cracks. Ava, come on, it wasn't like that with Claire. Then what was it? He hesitated. And in that hesitation, everything. He exhaled sharply. I wanted you to care. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was exactly what I already knew. You wanted me jealous, I said. He didn't deny it. I wanted you to fight for me. I looked at him for a long moment, then said quietly, I did. His brows furrowed. When? Every time I brought it up. Every time I told you it bothered me. Every time I gave you the chance to respect me without turning it into a game. His face shifted. Understanding. Too late. You didn't want a partner, I continued. You wanted a reaction. He swallowed hard. Ava, I love you. I let that sit there for a second, then shook my head. No, you love the version of me that chased you. That one hurt. I could see it. Because it was true. The room fell quiet again. Different this time. Final. I packed some things, I said after a moment. I'll move the rest this week. His head snapped up. You're leaving? I already did, I replied. He stepped forward again, panic now fully visible. You can't just walk away. We can fix this. I'll block her. I'll delete everything. What I wanted, I cut in gently, was someone who didn't need to be threatened with losing me to treat me right. He stopped, because there was no argument against that, only consequences. I can't afford this place alone, he said, grasping for something, anything. I met his eyes. You should have thought about that before you started playing games. That was the last real conversation we had. The aftermath was predictable. He tried everything. Texts, calls, apologies. Then anger. Then guilt. Then silence. On social media, he posted vague things about misunderstandings, about how people give up too easily, about loyalty. I didn't respond, didn't engage, didn't explain. I just changed my status. Single. Daniel and I went on that second date, then a third. Slow. Easy. No games. No tests. Just clarity. A month later, I got a message from a random number. 3:14 a.m. Claire and I didn't work out. She was still hung up on her ex. I ruined everything for nothing. I miss you. I stared at it for a long moment, then blocked the number. Because by then, I understood something I wish I'd known earlier. You can't control who someone follows, who they like, who they reconnect with. But you can control what you tolerate. And I stopped tolerating anything that made me feel like an option in my own relationship. Nathan thought he could have both freedom and loyalty, attention and security, games and love. He was wrong. Because the moment you turn love into a test, you've already failed it. And by the time he realized that, I was already gone.